Welcome back to another episode of Dumb Video Ideas I Had at 3 a.m. Today, we're talking about shoes. Have you ever noticed how so many of the Sonic characters are naked? Now, I'm not the most well-versed person on the behind-the-scenes stuff at Sega, but from what I'm aware, apparently there's some sort of mandate that female characters are clothed with shirts, dresses, pants, etc., while the male characters just got balls in the breeze. Because of their lack of drip, many of the male Sonic characters have a lot less going on design-wise, with their only articles of clothing being their gloves and their choices of shoes. This makes shoes in the Sonic series actually really important, even more so because of the series' emphasis on speed and running. Sonic shoes are simple but memorable. They're red with a white strap and gold buckle. They're timeless, they're classic, but I'm gonna be honest, these shoes bother me. You might say, why? What could possibly be offensive about these shoes? Well, let me tell you, viewer. The socks. My issue is the socks. You see, these socks aren't actually socks. Apparently, these white folds are just the top parts of Sonic shoes. Kind of like those Santa Claus Christmas shoes. I feel like my entire childhood was a lie. I always thought that these were socks. I mean, don't they look like those chunky, oversized socks that some people wear? Okay, I'm actually gonna get upset if I keep talking about this, so anyways, I think Sonic shoes are alright. There are a couple of interesting details about Sonic shoes. I'm sure you've probably heard that Sonic shoes were inspired by the shoes worn by Michael Jackson on his Bad album, but did you know that Sonic's shoe buckle wasn't always gold? If you look at some early artwork of Sonic from the first Sonic game, you'll see that his buckles were actually white. Just like his socks, the top parts of his shoes. If you look at classic Sonic shoes, they're quite a bit flatter than Sonic's modern design, and longer as well. All in all, classic Sonic shoes are pretty solid. Next, let's take a look at classic Eggman shoes. Well, to be honest, I don't know if he even wears shoes. His pants go all the way over his feet, so I'm not sure if these are pants and boots that are just the same color. Maybe he's wearing some sort of bodysuit? This is just weird. Next is classic Tails. Tails' shoes are pretty similar to Sonic's, but there are some notable differences. Tails' shoes are red and white just like Sonic's, but instead of white straps, the toes of his shoes are white. Tails also has the weird folded boot thing going on, but on the bottom of those folds is a bluish strap with a white buckle. As you can see, a lot of the early shoe designs were pretty simple, but things do get a bit more interesting with our next character, Amy. Classic Amy's shoes are quite a bit different from those Santa Claus shoes that Sonic and Tails are wearing. Amy has high-top baby blue shoes with white toes, orange shoelaces, and white tongues. These shoes are a lot more striking thanks to the contrast between the blue and orange colors. Another neat detail is that these shoes actually have soles on the bottom. Sonic, Tails, and Eggman's shoes were just these blobs of material, but Amy's shoes are constructed more like classic high-top basketball sneakers, like Jordan 1s or Chuck Taylor All-Stars, which I think makes them stand out really well, especially in the classic era. So with this next character, Metal Sonic, he doesn't really wear shoes. I mean, his shoes are his feet, so there's not much to say here. I'll be skipping over the other robot characters as well for the same reason. Moving right along here, we have Mighty the Armadillo. Now, if you notice, Mighty's shoes look awfully familiar to another character we've talked about today. It's Sonic. He stole Sonic's swag. Granted, he does do it a little bit differently. The strap isn't really a strap, it's more of just a white stripe of material on the top of his shoes with rounded tips. You know that old meme of, hey, can I copy your homework? Sure, just change it up a little bit. That's what Mighty's shoes are. Next up, we have Mighty's partner in crime, Ray the Flying Squirrel. Ray's shoes are very similar to Mighty's, except the color of his shoes is blue instead of red, and he has 2 white stripes on his shoes instead of just 1. Continuing on, we have our boy Knuckles. Classic Knuckles' shoes have quite a lot going on. They're yellow with red toes and red heels, he has green cuffs at the top, gray soles, and for some reason, these goofy looking metal plates bolted on the top of his shoes. If it weren't for the Lego bricks he has on the top of his shoes, I'd say these are pretty alright. Next up is the greatest Sonic character of all time, Fang the Hunter, aka Knack the Weasel, aka Fang the Sniper. Unfortunately, his shoes kinda suck. They're just brown boots with these white gaiters. You're my guy, Fang, but you gotta come with a little more heat than that, man. Espio the Chameleon is our next character of the day, and man, these shoes are weird. Classic Espio shoes are green with black toes and yellow cuffs, which is fine, but the weird part is Espio has those same straps around his ankles like Tails does, but he's got 2 on each shoe. I feel like you're better off just having 1 large strap instead of 2 tiny ones, but hey, that's just me being economical. Espio's fellow Chaotix member Vector is our next character, and his shoes are somewhat basic but still kinda neat. Classic Vector has blue shoes with yellow Santa Claus cuffs, which is pretty simple, but you know Vector's hype beast self had to throw in a little flex by having gold chains hanging down from the cuffs. Nobody is impressed with that, bro, stop it. Rounding off the Chaotix, we have Charmy B. Classic Charmy has red shoes with white toes, white shoelaces, white cuffs, and a red tongue. These shoes are kind of like if you took Amy's shoes and gave them the color scheme of Sonic shoes. I like them, and to be honest, I think they look pretty good if Sonic wore them. Next up, we have Bean the Dynamite. Bean's shoes are basically the same as Sonic's shoes, but he doesn't have any cuffs. They're just low-top sneakers with gray soles. I like Bean, but just like Mighty, he's kind of stealing Sonic's whole flow. Luckily, his homie Bark the Polar Bear from Sonic the Fighters has pretty cool looking shoes. Bark wears orange boots with brown toes and yellow shoelaces. The boots look like something you'd wear in a trek through the snow, so they fit Bark perfectly. Technically, she wasn't actually in the original version of Sonic the Fighters, but I figured I might as well talk about her now. Honey the Cat. Honey was a character from the Sega AM2 fighting game Fighting Vipers. Honey was redesigned as a new cat character for Sonic the Fighters, but she ended up being an unused character in the arcade release of the game. Honey was later made playable in the 2012 remaster of Sonic the Fighters. Honey wears these pretty cool looking red and black high-heeled boots. But with Honey out of the way, we now move into the quote-unquote Dreamcast era of Sonic, starting with Sonic Adventure. At this point in the series, several characters in the series got redesigned, so let's quickly go over the new shoe changes in the redesigns. Sonic's shoes are practically the same, but now his shoes have distinct gray soles. Not a big change, but it does add some extra detail that makes the shoes a bit more realistic and visually interesting. Tails' redesigned shoes also have soles, but there is one other change. The straps on his ankles now lack the buckles, making them look more like bracelets, bands, rings, whatever you want to call them, and instead of being bluish, they're more like a metallic black. To be honest, I never really care for these ankle strap things, so I wouldn't mind them being gone, so I guess I do prefer the way they look in the modern design, just because they're a little bit less noticeable. Modern Amy's redesign was quite drastic, and her new boots are no exception. Instead of the blue high-top sneakers, she's got these red, nearly knee-high boots with a single white vertical stripe running through each of the shoes. I think I'll always prefer Amy's old sneakers because I prefer the look of sneakers over the boots, and the colors were more interesting. The red and white candy cane combo is a little played out at this point. Eggman's redesigned shoes are black just like classic Eggman shoes, but there's a bit more detail here. Like with some of the other redesigns, his new boots have soles, as well as heels, but he also has these flat head screw looking things on the sides of his ankles and white panels running from the middle of his shoes up to about his knees. You know, I'm not really sure how I feel about these redesigned boots. The extra detail is cool, but I don't know, I think they kind of looked better when they were a little bit more simpler. Finally, we have Modern Knuckles' new shoes. This is the first character whose shoes don't feature any notable changes. They look basically the same. I guess the yellow part of the shoe is a bit different. For classic Knuckles, the top part of the yellow section of Knuckles' shoes extends to the back of the shoes. This was changed in Sonic Adventure to where now it's more of a yellow stripe. Very minor stuff. Now let's actually move into some new characters from the new era of Sonic. Big the Cat was introduced in Sonic Adventure, and he actually spices things up a bit by wearing sandals. The sandals are tan with silver buckles. They match with his belt, which is nice. I'm not big on sandals, haha, but I do like that Big at least tried to do something a little different. We all can't be mindless copycat sheep like Mighty and Bean. Along with Big, we have Tikal, who I actually forgot about when I first wrote this section of the script, but she is a new character in this game and she does wear shoes, I think? So the confusing thing about Tikal is that she has this whole bandage aesthetic going on. She's got bandages around her dreads and bandages around her legs, so I'm not sure if these are supposed to be bandages on her feet or if she's wearing sandals with a white strap. In her Sonic Channel artwork, it looks like she's got sandals with a white strap, but in some of her 3D models, it looks like the bandages are just running all the way down her legs to her feet. But all of this being bandages doesn't make sense because the shoes have a bottom, so there would have to be some sort of strap to keep them secured to her feet. Also, side note, I happen to notice that for some reason, Sonic Adventure has this weird fascination with feet. Two of the brand new characters in this game wear sandals so their feet are visible, when for years Sonic characters' feet were almost always hidden. And speaking of those other characters, there's artwork for Sonic Adventure where we can see Amy and Tails' feet. I just thought this was super weird because this hadn't really happened before Sonic Adventure, and it hasn't really happened since. Hey, it was a new generation of Sonic, so I guess they were trying something new. Anyways, next up we have Lumina, the often forgotten character from Sonic Shuffle. She wears these purple boots with pink stripes on the end, which I think looks nice enough. We also have her counterpart Void, who has these gem-like ankle bracelets and these green and yellow toe things. I really don't know what's going on here, but it doesn't look good. But with that side quest out of the way, let's move on to Sonic Adventure 2 with Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow's hover shoes are really high-tech looking, which is fitting given that he's this science experiment created in a futuristic space colony. They're black shoes with white toe boxes, red tongues, red heels, and gold rings around his ankles. The most interesting parts of Shadow's shoes are his soles. The soles are huge and they're red instead of the usual gray that you typically see with Sonic character designs. And they have these exhaust holes since they are hover shoes after all. These are some top tier kicks. If you want to hear more about my thoughts on Shadow and Sonic Adventure 2, you can check out the video I did on Sonic Adventure 2. Rouge the Bat is another character from Sonic Adventure 2. She's rocking these knee-high white boots with high heels, pink cuffs, and pink hearts on the toes. Rouge's boots fit her a lot. She's this femme fatale type character, so the hearts on her boots tie into that. The high heels and the long boots draw a lot of attention to her legs, which of course is for fan service, but her fighting style in the game does involve kicking, so it actually does tie into gameplay. While not a new character, Sonic gets new shoes in Adventure 2, the Grind Shoes, aka the Soap Shoes. These shoes are designed to be reminiscent of the real-life soap grinding shoes. The design of the grind shoes are what would happen if you took Sonic shoes and made them in the same style as Shadow's shoes. These soap shoes are a lot more detailed and futuristic looking, especially if you look on the bottom of the shoes. There's various lines and panels, with the most striking feature of the shoe being the very noticeable arch in the middle of the shoe, which helps with grinding. Sonic Adventure 2 came out at the beginning of the 2000s, a time when everyone was trying to make things look all sci-fi and cool, so honestly, these new shoes make a lot of sense. I do think they're a little over-designed, sometimes having too much detail can lead to visual clutter, but overall, I do quite like the soap shoes. Sonic Adventure 2 did give us a handful of important human characters, but none of their drip is really interesting, so let's move on to Cream from Sonic Advance 2. Her shoes are pretty simple orange and yellow shoes. I'm not sure if the white parts here are socks. They probably are, since they don't have that signature fold seen on Sonic shoes that seem to imply folded boots. Admittedly, I think these shoes are a bit of a step down from some of the ones we got just before this point in the series. But to be fair, Cream is a little kid, so a simpler shoe design makes sense for her. Cream's mother Vanilla is also rocking some pretty simple shoes. These shoes are rose colored with these yellow strap looking things. Like with Cream, these shoes aren't anything crazy. Sonic Heroes famously brought back the Chaotix, so let's go over their redesigned shoes. Modern Espio shoes are completely different. They were purple shoes with black soles, black straps, and these huge black cuffs with bandages and gold pieces all around them. I quite like these shoes. They definitely have that ninja feel with the dark color scheme and bandages. These gold pieces on the top of the black cuffs add just a little bit of pop to the shoes to make the whole thing look a bit more interesting. Modern Vector has black sneakers with white accents and gold rings around the ankle portions of the shoes. These shoes look pretty sleek. I like them. Modern Charmy has these simple orange shoes with large white soles and toes with white and gold zippers and black cuffs. Nothing much to really say here, although I think having the black cuffs is a nice choice, as Charmy's legs are also black, so it helps the whole design blend together better. With the Chaotix out of the way, we move on to Blaze the Cat. Blaze's shoes are very reminiscent of Sonic sneakers, but instead of being red, they're a lighter shade, more of a pink color, and instead of normal bottoms, they've got high heels. And instead of white layered cuffs, they're these very striking fur cuffs. To me, this is the perfect way of doing a simple design with an extra bit of flair to make it unique. The fur cuffs are super classy, which fits Blaze as she is a princess, but the fur cuffs are drawn to look pretty spiky, which adds a bit of edge to an otherwise elegant design. Sonic Rush also gave us Eggman Nega, and yeah, I don't know who was dressing this guy, but this is not it. Unless your name is Charmy Bee, I don't want to see you rocking the Bumblebee pattern, buddy. Next up, we have the Babylon Rogues, starting with Jet the Hawk. Jet's boots are the classic red with white cuffs combo, but they've got this wavy black arrow pattern running vertically down the shoes. Jet is another character who's all about speed, so the arrows kind of help give off that always moving forward, sporty sort of feeling. I really like Wave the Swallow's design, but the shoes are probably the weakest part of it. They're pretty simple red and white shoes with a zipper in the middle and some white panels on the sides. Not bad, but nothing all that interesting. Finally, we have Storm the Albatross. Storm's shoes are black with yellow straps. Not really much to say here. I think the color combo works well though. The bright yellow sticks out on top of the dark black color, but besides that I don't really have much to say here. What I do have more to say about is the new Riders redesigns. Riders gave us new, sportier looks for many of our older characters. Let's start off with Sonic, of course. I actually really like the Riders Sonic shoes. They're red shoes with white cuffs, red tongues with a yellow triangle on them, white straps with gold fasteners, gray heels, and white soles. The sole forms a brim around the front toe of the shoe, which is another small but cool touch. It gives the shoes a less rounded look and something a bit more structured, similar to the Soap shoes. Like the Soap shoes from Adventure 2, the Riders shoes are an elaborate, futuristic version of Sonic's regular shoes, but I actually prefer these over the Soaps, just because I think they're a lot less busy. The Riders shoes aren't complex enough to look too jarring in contrast to Sonic's simple design, but they're not so simple that they look plain. To me, this is a perfect balance, and to be perfectly honest, I think these are probably the only Riders redesigned shoes that I really mess with. Tails' shoes are similar to his normal shoes, but with the same design sensibilities as Riders' Sonic shoes, like the tongue and the double white straps. Knuckles, to be honest, I don't know what they were thinking with him. The shoes have green cuffs, but they're more like the Santa Claus cuffs as opposed to the more rigid ring-like cuffs that his normal shoes have. And the cuffs have zippers for some reason. His Lego plates look less like Legos, but still feel kind of unnecessary. I know why they're probably there. Knuckles' metal plates give Knuckles' shoes a more rugged feel, which fits Knuckles' rough and tough personality, but I don't know, I think it feels kinda random. I think it feels so jarring because his shoes are otherwise really colorful, and then you have these industrial metal plates here. I love Riders Amy's design overall, but I don't really dig the shoes. There's a vertical white line for the toe box, but there's also horizontal white lines on the sides. Just not really feeling these. Riders Shadow is kind of interesting because Shadow already had sporty, futuristic looking shoes before, so with his Riders shoes, there really wasn't anything new or interesting to do, so they just gave his shoes laces for no reason, and they got rid of the signature groove in the middle of his shoes for grinding. So overall, I just think these shoes look less interesting than his normal ones. Next up, we got Riders Rouge, and again, I like her overall design here. I dig the floral track pants, but the shoes just aren't doing anything for me. It could just be because the bottom of her pants are really baggy, so you can't really see much of the shoes. Riders Cream looks pretty cool, but unlike the others, I actually do like these shoes more than Cream's regular shoes. Like Riders Sonic shoes, they have some cool details that I prefer over the regular shoes, like the addition of tongues and high tops to the shoes, which give them more of an athletic look. Finally, we have Riders Eggman, whose shoes are basically the same as normal Eggman's, except the metallic panels on his legs don't extend down to the top part of the boots. Next up, we have Silver the Hedgehog. Like Shadow, Silver's shoes are drawn to be pretty high-tech looking. He has navy shoes with a white stripe running vertically down the middle of them, and bluish-green toes. The cuffs are gold with glowing green lights running horizontally through the middle of them. They remind me of a computer circuit on a motherboard or something like that. One very cool detail that you probably won't see unless you can see the bottoms of his shoes is that the bottoms of his soles have this pattern of 4 hexagons. I like these shoes quite a bit. The greens and blues are pretty low-key, so the gold really pops, and the green lights add to that futuristic vibe, which fits as Silver is from the future. Our next pair of kicks is from Marine the Raccoon, and unfortunately these are pretty boring. Orange shoes with green toes and white cuffs. Here's a character you probably haven't thought about in years, Shade from Sonic Chronicles. She has these mechanical black boots that look pretty cool. We also have Imperator Ix from Sonic Chronicles, who also has these high-tech looking shoes with gears as the cuffs. Moving right along here, we have another form of Sonic, Sonic the Werehog from Sonic Unleashed. His shoes are wilder, edgier looking versions of Sonic's shoes. The shade of red is a little bit darker, the straps have spikes on them, the cuffs are kind of tattered looking, and the soles of the shoes also have spikes on the bottom of them. That's not it for alternate forms of Sonic, because we have Sonic's redesign from Sonic Boom. I'm not a big fan of these redesigned shoes, mostly because Sonic Boom had this weird obsession with sports tape. His shoes are just drenched in the stuff. Boom Tails' shoes are a similar story. Knuckles doesn't have quite as much white sports tape, but he does have yellow sports tape on his shoes. One thing I do like better with these shoes over his normal design is how they opted to go for 2 rectangular plates on each of his shoes instead of the Lego plates. I think it looks less silly. Thankfully, Amy decided to be sensible and not do the whole sports tape on shoes thing. These shoes are alright, I suppose. They're pink with some gold buttons. Boom Shadow was also smart enough to avoid the tape. His shoes are fine, they're actually fairly similar to his normal shoes, but with a few differences, like the 3 panels on his cuffs and this red portion here on the top parts of his shoes. I prefer Shadow's normal shoes, but these are fine. Sonic Boom gave us a brand new character, Styx the Badger. Styx has this whole asymmetric thing going on, where each shoe is slightly different. Both shoes are khaki/beige, but the right shoe has a fluffy white cuff instead of a beige one like the left shoe has, and the right shoe has a bronze strap instead of a gray metallic one like the left shoe has. Styx is meant to be an eccentric, unpredictable character who grew up in the wilderness, so her asymmetric design fits very well. The shoes themselves aren't super interesting individually, but the contrast between them together is pretty cool. Next up, we have Infinite. He wears these pointy black high-top shoes with metallic soles and a black strap with a metallic outline. Infinite is this edgy character, so all the metal details work pretty well. Next up, we have Sage from Sonic Frontiers, who wears these black Mary Jane shoes. They're pretty straightforward, so not much to say here. Let's talk about Barry the Quokka, who wears pretty boring black shoes with yellow cuffs. The conductor literally wears the exact same shoes. There's also the conductor's wife, who wears very basic tan shoes. Next up is Trip from Sonic Superstars, who wears these very blocky, bronze, industrial looking shoes. I like them. When she isn't wearing armor, she's wearing much simpler looking orange shoes with red cuffs and gold plates on the toes of the shoes. These shoes manage to keep that same industrial look as Trip's armor design, but they're a little bit more comfy looking. And lastly, we have Arium from Sonic Dream Team. And I'm not sure if she's even wearing shoes. Her feet are like these little nubs. So maybe these little blue points at the bottom are the shoes. If so, they're pretty basic, nothing to write home about. But yeah, I think that's about it. I know I didn't talk about every pair of shoes in the Sonic series because I know there's going to be comments saying, hey, you didn't talk about the Lightspeed shoes upgrade from Sonic Adventure 2, or you forgot about Blaze's figure skating shoes from Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, and Sonic's soccer shoes from the February 1993 Harmony magazine cover. I don't really feel like dragging this video out longer, especially since I don't really have much to say about all of those other shoes. But hey, if you're interested in watching more videos where I talk about overly specific things in the Sonic series, here's a video I did on the character select screens in the Sonic series. I also have a whole playlist of Sonic videos for you to check out if you're looking for something to marathon or to just have something to listen to as background noise. That's all I've got to talk about for today though, so thanks for watching y'all and have a great rest of your day.